Okay, Dr. Ted, I sent you last night. Last night I sent you an outline, kind of, not even outline, I'm sorry, a brainstorm of my thoughts as I was watching the surrogates, trying to draw parallels to current realities in society. And it was actually pretty easy to draw the parallels in that movie. However, when I woke up, therefore I shared with you my notes, and I shared with you a proposed thesis statement. However, when I woke up this morning, I have an epiphany, and this epiphany is the true meaning of the surrogates, which I believe is the realities that the writers or the director tried to show the audience, and that is not that the surrogates was really the issue. The issue with the movie The Surrogates is not necessarily AI or artificial intelligence. The issue is the human brain. I think the direction I want to take this paper now is that the human brain is in conflict with itself. So the human brain is in conflict with itself. In that, if you watch the movie, the climax of the movie is when Bruce is actually occurs actually pretty early in the movie, when Bruce Willis surrogate is actually destroyed with the lady with the shotgun as he was chasing the person who had the powerful weapon, and he catches up with them, and and that's the climax of the movie, because it allows Bruce Willis to get out of the pod, out of that surrogate controlling pod, and it allows him to actually deal with the realities of the world. So the rest of the movie, he's actually walking amongst surrogates. He had to use his brain, his primitive brain, to figure it out. He had to use his primitive brain, and this idea of the concept of the primitive brain is actually quite important to the direction I want to take this paper. In that, I'm proposing that the reality is our brains are in conflict with one another. We have two parts. We have two brains, basically, or two parts of our brain. And these two parts are in conflict with one another continuously. They're perpetually in conflict with one another. And for some people, that conflict it becomes out of control, and this is what we call insanity or mental illness. And the two parts of the brain are one, our simple part of our brain, our longevity part, the part of our brain that is most concerned with survival. And this is a primitive part of our brain. This is how, when we were birthed from dirt. This is what we were most concerned with was survival. So this is a very primitive part of our brain, and it is still with us tens of thousands of years later, depending on what you believe, depending on how long you believe man has been on Earth. Then we have another part of our brain, which is the innovative part of our brain, and the innovative part of our brain is our vanity. It really feeds our vanity. The need to innovate is really about not making life better, but it's really about excitement. It's really about pleasure. It's really about me. So we have this part of our brain called the amygdala that's concerned with self, what's in it for me. From an educator's perspective, it says, what's in it for me? So these two parts of our brains is what really creates social issues, which really creates political conflict. It's that these parts of our brain are always in constant conflict with one another, and when they go too off whack, we call that mental illness. Whether it's narcissism, whether it's criminal aggression, whether it's being a kleptomaniac, it really deals with this conflict of longevity and vanity, and I think that's what the movie was about, because all throughout the movie, these were the two main issues: longevity and vanity. Bruce Willis's wife symbolizes the vanity. The folks who lived in the reservations, they symbolized longevity, and also the people who were operating the surrogates symbolized this conflict between, or Bruce Willis actually, and other people symbolized this conflict between longevity and vanity. I forgot his name, but the guy who created the surrogate, he symbolizes, the criminality part of it, or the insane part of it, where he's just so smart that he created something that was too advanced for the time, which is another key part of the direction I want to take this paper, is that the reason why this longevity part of the brain and the simplicity part of the brain, or the simplistic, what I'm called the longevity part of the brain, which is the simplistic part of the brain, and the innovative part of the brain, which is the vanity, the reason why it's a problem is because the longevity part of the brain wants us to slow down and wants us to stay alive. It's the part of the brain that wants us to eat healthy. It's the part of the brain that doesn't want us to get on that roller coaster at the amusement park. It's the part of the brain that says, you had too much to drink, slow down, just relax. It's the part of the brain that says jumping out of a perfectly good plane is ridiculous. It's the part of our brain that encourages reproduction, so we can have this relationship with these children, these little things, and these children allow us to kind of slow down and make better decisions, so we can be there for them. And the innovative part of our brain, the vanity part of our brain, it pulls the opposite direction. It doesn't want kids, right? It doesn't want to reproduce because it wants that time to jump out of airplanes. It wants that time to have that extra drink at happy hour. It wants that time to get on that roller coaster and do the loop and go 80 miles an hour on a roller coaster. And also it thrives off of self-pleasure, and it thrives off of being better. It thrives off of telling the story. It thrives off of getting the good-looking, having the trophy wife. It thrives off of having a trophy husband, right? So this vanity part of our brains are in constant conflict. And if you look at the realities of the world, this is the reality that we face every day. Vanity versus longevity. Vanity versus longevity. If we look at the spikes if we look at one number in the realistic terms, in human terms, and in modern day terms, there is there is a reduction in the reproduction rates of human beings, especially where, and here's the interesting part, especially in developed countries. In developed nations, in Europe, and even in the United States, there is a reduction of births. You know, to say it simply, smart people are not having babies. But why? Because they want to take that extra drink at happy hour. You know, they want to drive that fast car. You know, they want to get up. They want to climb Mount Everest, right? You know, that's the focus. They want to be able to tell that story. They want to be able to have that big house. They want to be able to, wear that Louis Vuitton dress, right? That narcissism, the vanity. I look good, right? And that's, however, this is in conflict with our longevity, our most primal part of our brain, the brainstem, which really says, slow down, let's stay alive, right? So if we look at developing nations, third world countries, they're not experiencing a reduction in birth rates. Okay, so one of the interesting facts is that the reason why Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world is because Islam has sent out missionaries to where, not necessarily developed nations, but they have sent their missionaries to developing in third world countries. Okay, and in Islamic family are still having, outside of GCC, because the GCC has issues with this whole innovation thing also because of the oil. So you're finding in the GCC countries such as Saudi Arabia and UAE and Oman that people are having less babies than they did decades before. However, in other Islamic nations such as Pakistan, such as Indonesia, the birth rates are not decreasing; they're actually increasing. Right? So I read one report that said basically by the year 2035, I have to go back and look at the report, that basically France is going to be an Islamic state. Okay, because French people are not having are not reproducing, and they're having an influx of Islamic immigrants who are reproducing, right? And so this is one piece of evidence that shows that you have people who are not necessarily a part of the knowledge society, the age of access, who are still living kind of behind at times. We know that Islam, knowledge-wise, is behind, and they're trying to catch up. This is why I'm in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia now is trying to help. Is trying to help an Islamic country catch up to the knowledge age, the age of access. So another theory that I have, another idea that I want to talk about is this conflict between longevity and vanity, in that the vanity, we're innovating so fast. The innovation is occurring so fast that it's taking the balance off. It's really disrupting the balance of longevity. So we're innovating so fast that we're actually destroying ourselves, because longevity and vanity are not balanced. Cell phones are increasing so fast. Our ability our ability to create biotechnologies and the internet and all these things that seem to make our lives more convenient and therefore give us longevity is not going to give us longevity at all, because what's going to happen is we're going to become mentally ill. We're going to be like the people in the surrogates. We're going to be like the surrogates, i.e. Bruce Willis's wife, i.e. the creator of the surrogates, who become mentally ill, who become mentally unstable, who don't want to socialize with one another, and therefore don't reproduce, and therefore cause the extinction of the race, of the human race, and therefore create wars and conflicts, because we're going to be able to produce weapons of mass destruction quite easily in the next couple of decades that can wipe out all of the world, on top of Mother Nature's just ability to keep us in check, with different viruses, the Zika virus, HIV, whatever Mother Nature decides to give man to keep the balance of man on Earth, to keep the population of man on Earth balanced. So there's this constant tug of war, and the reality is innovation is winning the tug of war, and longevity can't catch up, and that's creating mental illness. That's creating a narcissism. That's creating introverts, right? Which the effect is low reproduction rates, a decrease in reproduction rates, and an increase in war and violence. Which in anarchy. And if you look at everything that's going on in the world right now, we're having these extremely conservative leaders who are rising up. But the populace itself are actually quite progressive. So it's this. So we take America for instance. We have a conservative president, but the populace is quite liberal, and we're not getting anything accomplished right now politically. It's just we're at a political stalemate because the vanity part of us, the progressive part of us,